decirle a la gente de Culiacán.
I would like to tell the people of Culiacan that we have sent sufficient reinforcements to guarantee peace and tranquility.
Suficiente para garantizar la paz, la tranquilidad.
The Sinaloa Cartel is one of the most powerful and feared drug organizations in Mexico, responsible for much of the drug trafficking across the world. Recently, however, a civil war has broken out within the cartel, dividing it into two main factions. The Mayos, led by Ismael El Mayo Zambada, and the Chapitos, led by the sons of infamous cartel leader Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. This internal war has unleashed violence across the streets of Sinaloa, particularly in its capital, Culiacán, causing fear and chaos among its citizens. The Sinaloa Cartel was founded in the late 1980s and became one of the most dominant forces in the drug trade under the leadership of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman and Ismael El Mayo Zambada. For years, El Chapo and El Mayo controlled the cartel together, smuggling drugs like cocaine, marijuana, heroin, and methamphetamine into the United States and other parts of the world. El Chapo was notorious for his adventurous prison escapes, his violent actions, and his massive drug empire. However, after his final arrest and extradition to the United States in 2017, the leadership structure of the Sinaloa Cartel began to shift. El Chapo's sons, known collectively as Los Chapitos, or the Chapisa, stepped into leadership roles, while El Mayo continued to run his own faction. This division led to increasing tensions between the two groups, setting the stage for the conflict we are witnessing today. When did all these start? The civil war within the Sinaloa Cartel erupted in September 2024, when gunmen loyal to El Mayo stormed a neighborhood in Culiacán controlled by the Chapitos. This attack marked the beginning of what has now become one of the most violent periods in the city's recent history. Both sides are using heavily armed private militias that look and operate like military forces. These factions are not only fighting for control of drug routes and territory, but also for dominance within the cartel. The violence has reached unprecedented levels. Between 50 and 100 people have been killed in the clashes, with bodies regularly being found dumped in the streets. In one shocking instance of body messaging, 5 bodies were left propped against a wall with sombreros on their heads and chests. The sombreros are believed to be a symbol linked to the Mayos faction, although the exact meaning remains unclear. This tactic of body messaging is used by both factions to send threats and warnings to their enemies. How does Culiacán feel about this? As the conflict between the Mayos and Chapitos intensifies, the residents of Culiacán find themselves trapped in a state of terror. Gunfights between the two factions often take place at night, leaving citizens to wake up to scenes of violence and death in the morning. In some cases, the gunmen have even stopped buses and warned passengers to turn back, saying there is carnage ahead. For the people of Culiacán, this is the worst violence they have seen in 15 years. Most schools are shut down, businesses are closing early, and the once vibrant nightlife of the city has come to a complete halt. Musicians who used to perform in bars and restaurants are now forced to busk in the streets to earn enough money for food. "We're here to get money for food because it's really tough," says one musician. Almost all of the gigs have been cancelled. Nothing, not even a morsel. The conflict has left thousands of people out of work, and many are relying on government food packages to survive. People queue for hours just to get basic supplies, unsure of when or if life will return to normal. What impact it has made on families and children. The violence is taking a particularly heavy toll on children and families. Many residents have had to take extreme measures to protect their loved ones. A mother named Hilda, who lives with her 7-year-old son Santi, describes how the recent gun battles in their neighborhood have left them traumatized. "It was traumatic," she says. "The children were scared. My son was terrified when he heard the shootouts. He had to hide with his grandparents. Children like Santi are growing up in a world where gunfire, kidnappings, and cartel violence are daily occurrences. The psychological impact of living in constant fear is immeasurable, and many families are desperate for a way out. What are the actions taken by the military? In response to the escalating violence, the Mexican government has deployed over 3,000 soldiers to Culiacan. These troops are tasked with maintaining order, but their presence has done little to stem the tide of violence. When asked when the situation would return to normal, one military commander admitted, "It doesn't depend on us. It depends on the groups in conflict if they stop fighting and leave the population in peace." This statement highlights the grim reality of the situation. The Mexican government, despite its best efforts, has little control over the cartel violence that is tearing the city apart. The state is caught in a difficult position as it lacks the power to stop the conflict outright. For now, peace depends entirely on whether the warring factions decide to negotiate or continue their bloody struggle for dominance. What are the roots of this conflict? The power struggle between the Mayos and Chapitos is not just about territory or drug routes, it is also a generational conflict. The Chapitos represent a younger, more aggressive faction eager to assert their control over the cartel's operations. El Mayo, on the other hand, is a veteran leader who has been involved in the drug trade for decades. His faction represents the old guard with deep ties to the cartel's original operations. This internal division has caused a split in the cartel, with each side amassing its own army of loyalists. The Mayos have long relied on their alliances with other powerful drug lords, while the Chapitos have expanded their influence through their father's legacy and their own violent tactics. The conflict is also fueled by the broader drug trade in Mexico. The Sinaloa Cartel remains one of the most powerful organizations in the country, and control over its operations is a prize worth fighting for. The violence in Culiacan is just one part of a larger battle for control of Mexico's drug trade. What are the impacts of a wider conflict? The war between the Mayos and Chapitos threatens to engulf the entire Sinaloa Cartel. While the fighting is currently concentrated in Culiacan, there are fears that it could spread to other parts of Mexico. The cartel has a presence in nearly every state, and if the conflict continues to escalate, it could have devastating consequences for the entire country. The Mexican government has a difficult task ahead. If the violence continues to spread, it could destabilize large parts of northern Mexico, leading to even more bloodshed and suffering. Some experts believe that the only way to resolve the conflict is through negotiation, but others argue that the government must take stronger action to dismantle the cartels once and for all. The civil war within the Sinaloa Cartel has turned Culiacan into a war zone, with the Mayos and Chapitos fighting for control of the cartel's operations. The violence has left a trail of death and destruction, and the people of Culiacan are living in fear. Schools are closed, businesses are shuttered, and families are struggling to survive in a city paralyzed by cartel violence. As long as the war continues, the people of Culiacan will remain caught in the crossfire. The future of the Sinaloa Cartel and Mexico's drug trade as a whole depends on the outcome of this brutal conflict. For now, the residents of northern Mexico can only hope for peace, even as the violence rages on.
You may have heard of Joaquin Guzman, better known as El Chapo, or the Godfather. He was the world's biggest drug lord. He is currently serving a life sentence in a US prison, but his business, Mexico's Sinaloa Cartel, is still booming.
The Sinaloa Cartel, once a formidable force in the world of drug trafficking, is now embroiled in a fierce power struggle. It with the recent capture of El Mayo Zambada, the last remaining co-founder, the cartel is facing a leadership crisis. While the Chapitos, El Chapo's sons, have been positioning themselves as the natural successors, a new player has emerged, threatening to upend their plans. This video explores the identity of this enigmatic figure and the potential consequences of their rise to power. So stay tuned with us. In July 2024, a seismic shift occurred in the world of drug cartels. Ismael El Mayo Zambada, the elusive co-founder of the Sinaloa Cartel, was arrested in Texas. After evading capture for decades and outlasting his infamous partner El Chapo, Zambada's arrest could be seen as the end of an era. However, this development is far from a straightforward resolution. The arrest of El Mayo has left a significant power vacuum, sparking fears of escalating violence, particularly in Sinaloa. The Chapitos, El Chapo's sons, are positioned to seize full control of the cartel. Known for their ruthless methods, Los Chapitos have built a reputation for violent retribution and flashy displays of power. With their father imprisoned, they seem ready to assert their dominance over the entire organization. Yet a new and enigmatic figure has emerged: Ismael Zambada Garcia, also known as El Mayo Flaco. Unlike the Chapitos, who crave the spotlight, El Mayo Flaco has operated quietly, mastering the cartel's intricate operations from the shadows. While the Chapitos are seen as reckless heirs, El Mayo Flaco is viewed as a strategic and patient leader with a deep understanding of the cartel's inner workings. El Mayo Flaco's rise could disrupt the Chapitos' plans. There is speculation that he might reunite the fractured cartel and continue its operations under his leadership. This shift in power could have profound implications, extending beyond Mexico to impact global drug trafficking, international politics, and the ongoing opioid crisis. The opioid crisis in the US has reached alarming levels, with more deaths from accidental opioid overdoses than from car accidents. The Sinaloa Cartel plays a major role in this crisis, largely due to its involvement in the fentanyl trade. El Mayo Flaco has emerged as a key figure in this operation, aiming to increase fentanyl's addictiveness and ensure a continuous stream of customers, thus driving up the number of fatalities. El Mayo Flaco isn't just another drug lord. He operates within a multi-billion-dollar industry that shapes global drug trade dynamics. Despite his influence, he has maintained a low profile, largely unknown outside cartel circles. With his father in prison, Flaco faces a critical choice: take over the Sinaloa Cartel or let Los Chapitos lead. His decision will have significant repercussions both within and beyond Mexico. If El Mayo Flaco challenges Los Chapitos, we could witness a dramatic shift in organized crime operations. His leadership style contrasts sharply with theirs. While the Chapitos rely on brute force, El Mayo Flaco employs a more strategic approach. He is known for building alliances rather than creating enemies, positioning himself as a calculated leader. Under Flaco's leadership, the cartel's operations have diversified. Beyond traditional drug routes, he has expanded into cybercrime, human trafficking, and legitimate businesses used for money laundering. This diversification not only enhances the cartel's profitability, but also its resilience. Flaco's control over the fentanyl trade is particularly significant. As fentanyl, a synthetic opioid 50 times stronger than heroin, remains cheap to produce and extremely deadly, the cartel has become one of the largest suppliers in the US, contributing to the crisis that claims thousands of lives annually. Flaco's methods also reflect a shift from traditional practices. While Los Chapitos flaunt their power, Flaco embraces modern technology to maintain a competitive edge. His use of encrypted communications keeps his activities concealed, while blockchain technology facilitates secure money transfers. His application of AI to predict law enforcement strategies demonstrates a sophisticated understanding of contemporary tools, making him a formidable opponent. Moreover, Flaco's approach to managing corruption is advanced. Rather than simply bribing officials, he invests in long-term relationships. He supports the careers of politicians, judges, and law enforcement officers, helping them rise to more influential positions. This strategy ensures these individuals become even more valuable assets as they climb the power ladder. Rumors suggest that Flaco's influence extends to high levels of government, both within Mexico and internationally, which might explain his ability to operate with relative impunity. As Flaco contends with Los Chapitos, the implications for the Sinaloa Cartel and the global drug trade are profound. If Flaco outmaneuvers the Chapitos and gains control, the cartel could become even more powerful and elusive. This prospect is troubling given the human cost associated with the drug trade. The struggle for dominance within the cartel is more than a clash of individuals. It represents a potential narco-civil war with far-reaching consequences. The future of drug trafficking hinges on who leads the Sinaloa Cartel. If Los Chapitos retain control, we can expect a continuation of the current dynamics, with drugs flowing steadily into the U.S. However, if El Mayo Flaco takes over, a broader expansion into European and Asian markets might occur. The difference won't just be in the types of drugs, but also in their distribution. Flaco's tech-driven methods, including drone deliveries and cryptocurrency transactions, could revolutionize the industry. Beyond the drug trade, both factions wield significant political influence, though their tactics differ. Los Chapitos use direct methods, bribes, threats, and occasional assassinations to exert control. In contrast, El Mayo Flaco employs more subtle strategies, investing in political campaigns, setting up legitimate businesses as fronts, and infiltrating government at multiple levels. This could usher in a new era of narco-politics, where a cartel leader doesn't just influence policy, but actively shapes it. Imagine one of the world's most wanted criminals influencing drug laws, border policies, and international agreements. A chilling prospect indeed. The broader impact of this power struggle could redefine organized crime globally. The Sinaloa Cartel sets trends for other criminal organizations. If Flaco's corporate and tech-savvy methods succeed, other groups may follow suit. Conversely, if Los Chapitos maintain their grip, it could signal a return to the more violent and ostentatious practices of the past. Law enforcement agencies face significant challenges in adapting to either Flaco's high-tech methods or the Chapitos' brute force. The battle against cartels is evolving, with increasing violence and civilian casualties likely as the struggle continues. Addressing the root causes of drug demand, poverty, and corruption remains crucial, though no easy solutions exist. The capture of El Mayo and the rise of El Mayo Flaco signal a new chapter in the war on drugs, with the true human cost being families shattered by addiction, communities living in fear, and lives lost to violence. So, as you follow updates on cartel activities, remember this: it's a complex issue of power, money, and human suffering. And as long as these dynamics persist, new leaders like El Mayo Flaco will always emerge to take charge. What should be done about it? That's the question we all need to consider. Thanks for watching. Who do you think will emerge as Sinaloa's new leader? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Until next time, stay safe.